Welcome. It's Facts You Don't Know. If it's your first time here and you want to find out new facts that will definitely make you smarter and more, well, and first make sure to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss anything.
Today I'll tell you an interesting story. They say that this case was in fact, but I couldn't find real prototypes. But this isn't important. But what is important is that this story provides a very important lesson. The story happened in one of the countries in Latin America. Marissa is a 24-year-old married woman with 2 children. The girl was 4 years old and the boy was just 2. She lived in an ordinary, modest house with her husband who worked as a taxi driver. One day, Marissa wrote a letter and began to pack her suitcases. When she finished, she left it on the table and left, leaving her children all alone. Her husband, Matthias, returned home soon after. The first thing he saw was his children crying at the door. They spent several hours waiting for their mother to return. He was shocked by this bizarre situation. He began to look for his wife in the house, but he didn't find her. When he entered the kitchen, he saw a letter on the table and began to read it. Here's what was written there. Matthias, I dreamed of a life without you, full of happiness, luxury, travel, and not poverty. But with you it does not work. I want to enjoy my youth, but with you I feel trapped. A month ago I met a man. He has money to give me a better life. So I decided to go live with him. I leave our children with you. Take care of them, but please do not ever try to look for me. I don't want to know anything about you anymore. The man couldn't believe what he had read. Tears flowed incessantly down his face, and his chest was torn from the pain that hit his heart. The woman he loved so much left him and their 2 children to start a life from scratch. The man quickly calmed down as his beloved kids were looking at him. He went to the trash can and threw out the letter. But the children feel such moments, and the daughter asked Matthias, Daddy, what's wrong with you, and where is Mommy? The man replied that she had to leave, and perhaps she would never return. But everything will be fine, and they'll continue to live as one friendly family. From that moment, Matthias had to deal with everything in the house. He had to get up early in the morning to cook for the children, wash them, wash clothes, and clean the house, shop, and everything else. He took his daughter to the kindergarten, but he had to take his youngest son to work with him. The man placed him in the back seat in a child seat and fastened his seatbelt. The boy seemed to understand everything and was almost not capricious. The passengers, too, fortunately understood everything, and there was almost no dissatisfied ones. On the contrary, they played with the baby, and regular customers even left more tips. Especially among them stood out a beautiful girl of about 30 years old named Alicia. She became a good friend of the man and even offered him sometimes to take care of his children while he was working. Matthias agreed, but although he offered the woman money to stay with his children, she always refused. She told him she understands how difficult it is to raise 2 children alone when there's not always enough money. The woman was very pleased to help him. But despite this, Matthias still felt trapped. He barely had enough money to cover the bills and support the children. There was no talk of savings, but to earn more, he needed a luxury car. He didn't know what to do until one day Alicia offered him a loan from the bank and promised to help with the necessary papers. The man agreed and began enthusiastically to collect all the required documents. With them, he went to the bank, where he was told that the answer would be in a week. His fate and the fate of his children depended on this loan. But once he arrived home, he found a letter from the bank. Unfortunately, there was a refusal. Matthias dropped his hands, but Alicia was again next to him. She encouraged him and explained that one refusal is not a sentence and requests should be sent to different banks. So our hero did. A week later, he began to receive letters from banks. When he opened them, he saw the same thing in each. The loan was denied. He had already lost all hope. Even so, he still wanted to give his children a better life. So he began to work up to 15 hours a day. He even began to postpone a little, but the expected happened. The car broke down. From a conversation with the mechanic, Matthias realized that there was simply not enough money for repairs. Bad thoughts immediately entered his head. Walking home on foot, he thought about the future of his children. I have to beg to feed the kids, and if they're taken away from me, what to do? He stood at the house for a while to calm down. Going inside, he heard the laughter of his children. They seemed to be very happy. When he entered, his children hugged him tightly. Alicia was sitting with them that day. She handed Matthias a letter, she said in surprise, but there were refusals from everywhere. But the woman interrupted him and said, Maybe you were waiting for it. It came a couple hours ago. Matthias grabbed the envelope, opened it, and slowly pulled out the letter. There was an inscription. Loan approved. He couldn't believe it. At least one bank finally approved his request. Now he can give his family a better future. After a while, Matthias, as he wanted, changed the car, and which he was able to offer better services. He began to make good money, and over time, the man became not just a taxi driver, but buying cars to rent them out. It all grew into a large taxi fleet, and the man became rich enough to buy himself a big house, allow regular travel, and teach children at any school. A few years later, they already lived with Alicia. They were in love and planned to get married. But one afternoon, someone knocked on the door. He didn't expect guests. Opening the door, he was amazed. In front of him stood Marissa, his ex-wife who abandoned him and the children, without thinking about their future. He'd not seen her in more than 6 years. She told him that she wanted to return to him and asked to forgive her for everything. The woman said that her other guy treated her badly, and she regretted very much what she did. She hugged him and entered the house without waiting for Matthias to answer. When she went into the kitchen, she saw a woman at the table and asked, "Who is this? Put this woman out." But her children hugged Alicia. They became very close to her, and they said that they loved her as if she were their biological mother. Matthias took Marissa out of the house and said, "Never dare return to this house again. Alicia is my wife, and you'll be able to see the children in accordance with the procedure established by the court, if, of course, you want. So go now in search of another man. You're still young. Maybe you'll find a millionaire who'll give you everything that I could not give you." He closed the door in front of Marissa's face. He never saw her again. She didn't even visit her children. It became clear that she was motivated only by an interest in money. Unfortunately, such stories, when one parent leaves the family for a better life, happen often. But our hero, Matthias, was incredibly lucky to have Alicia nearby, who believed in his potential. Together with her children, became the biggest motivation in life. That's all, friends. What do you think about this story? Be sure to write your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video in social networks. We'll be right back to you as fast as we can.